National Nutrition Natural Health Reviews. 3 minutes of the latest naturopathic info with Canada's leading nutrition experts. Watch, learn, and get healthy naturally.
Hey there, Naturopathic Doctor Jonathan Beatty here, health expert at Nationalnutrition.ca. Do you like to travel south in the winter? Are you a snowbird? Do you like to get away from these cold Canadian winters? Or are you just a world traveler, likes to see the world, travel all around? And if you have you ever experienced traveler's diarrhea? We sometimes like to call it Montezuma's revenge. It often happens to people when they travel to foreign countries, eat some of the local produce or drink the local water, and then they develop anywhere between 1 day and 5 days of just very loose bowels, and that can absolutely cripple a vacation. If you've only got 1 week in a country and you spend 5 of it, handcuffed to a toilet essentially, it's really going to ruin a vacation. So there's some hints and tips you can use to help avoid traveler's diarrhea. Essentially, the reason we have traveler's diarrhea, the reason we develop it, is it's not so much a true infection as it is just a rebalancing of your gut microbes. What ends up happening is the local bacteria that make up the environment start to inhabit your gut, and you end up having a bacterial civil war inside of you. And this causes all sorts of irritation and ultimately very rapid transit time, which causes very loose stool, a lot of watery stools, and diarrhea. So if you have that, one of the main things you're going to want to do to help manage it is, of course, trying to avoid unwashed food, try to avoid the local water supply, drinking bottled water, things like that. Because it's not so much that the local water may necessarily be poisonous or contaminated, but what ends up happening is if it is a vector for some of the local bacteria, even if they can be healthy or healthful to the local people, they may actually cause traveler's diarrhea in you. So if you watch the locals drinking from a tap, they all seem fine. You're like, oh, the water must be safe. It could be, but it could contain that bacteria, and that could cause you to have traveler's diarrhea. So drinking bottled water, try to ensure that any fruits and vegetables you eat are what we either boiled or peeled or well cooked, because that can get rid of any of these bacteria that can cause the problem. So, obviously avoidance is one of the key things that we want to do to avoid traveler's diarrhea. Now, if you do get it, things you're going to want to do to manage it. Well, first is drink. If you've got diarrhea, one of the biggest risks you're going to have is dehydration, especially if you're now gone to a very warm country. You're someplace where you're going to be sweating a lot. You're going to be losing water through your skin, through sweat. You're also going to be losing it through the diarrhea. So dehydration is very important to avoid. One of the things you want to make sure when avoiding dehydration is not just about water consumption, it's about hydration, which includes electrolytes. So taking in an electrolyte drink, adding a little bit of salt to your water if you don't have an electrolyte drink handy, very helpful ways to ensure that you're going to get adequate hydration and prevent that dehydration, which is one of the main problems of traveler's diarrhea. Other things you're going to want to take with you when you travel: a good shelf-stable probiotic. Now, some probiotics need to be refrigerated. The trouble with travel is, of course, you don't always have a fridge handy. So what I usually recommend is trying to find a probiotic that does not need to be refrigerated. We refer to these as shelf-stable. The reason behind this is that most probiotics need to be refrigerated, and if they're not, then the bacteria inside them dies off and it's going to lose all of its effect. By using a shelf-stable product, you're going to ensure that the bacteria is still going to be viable even if it doesn't get to be refrigerated, and it's going to help fight off and prevent infestation by some of the local bacteria, and that'll help avoid traveler's diarrhea. Last but not least, there's a very helpful homeopathic I often recommend to people called Arsenicum album or Met album, and it's one that's specifically used in the management of traveler's diarrhea. So if you do develop traveler's diarrhea, I typically recommend taking it every 30 minutes to every hour until your symptoms resolve, and it can dramatically speed up your resolution of the traveler's diarrhea. It doesn't do anything to manage the symptoms. What I find with my patients is it just reduces the duration of their experience, and so it allows them to actually go out and experience their vacation and their travel and not spend their entire time in the bathroom. So if you're prone to traveler's diarrhea, I hope these helpful tips will help you avoid it so that you can have a joyful vacation, not spend the entire thing in the water closet. So check out more of our videos, subscribe, and if you have any questions or comments, please post them below. And always remember, knowledge is health.